You are listening to the Brentford Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with the BeeSotted podcast, Robin Hood McMichael and Dave XG Anderson. Did I get that right?
That's perfectly right.
But
Hi, Charlie.
You left out your nickname that we gave you a few weeks back.
Did I?
Yeah, I gave it. Yeah, no go Hawkins. Do you not remember?
Yeah,
it?
but I didn't want that one, Robin. I want to get a better one.
Well,
and Dave said, we can't force these things.
I suppose.
true.
Yeah, we'll have to think of a better one.
Yeah, well, better. Yeah, please, just give me a chance. Give me a chance. as of course, this is the second Brentford Fan Show that I've been allowed to do with you, and it's been an absolute pleasure because obviously I missed you both last week because Brentford were in action, and I say were in action. It was QPR. It was a massive game. Let's get into it. It was QPR. What did you make of it, Dave? I'll start with you.
Oh, well, it was a great occasion. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, I think we were kind of apprehensive a little bit. We weren't sure what Warburton was going to do. Good manager, one of our previous head coaches, kind of had an idea that he can't defend, and they're going to be a little bit open and give us a few chances, and we really exploited them. It was just a classic away performance. Soaked them up, soaked a little bit of pressure, hit them on the break, and some devastating goals.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We're always quite apprehensive, as Dave said. I was very, very nervous going to the game. It's always nervous going away to Loftus Road. I wouldn't describe it as an intimidating ground, but it's not an easy ground to go to watch football because you're very close to the pitch. Some of the angles you can't quite see all of what's happening. But like I said, it was a glorious, glorious day if you're a Brentford fan. The bragging rights are always at stake, as you can probably tell. But this was two teams that are actually sort of doing quite relatively well this season compared to what they were doing last season. So yeah, it was always going to be a nervous occasion, but we certainly went out there and started the week off with a bang. It was brilliant.
Yeah, you certainly did, because obviously winning that game 3-1, and it was your first successive win in the Championship, beating a London League rival in QPR, who are going very well in this season. Third one on the bench, 3 goals, beating a rival. It doesn't get much better, but obviously it was the return of Mark Warburton. How do Brentford fans feel about him? Do they still look at him fondly, Dave? You've got a wry smile there now to see him manage, not your biggest of rivals, but a London rival nonetheless. How do you feel about it? Obviously, not a lot easier now that you did get that victory.
Yeah. Now you can sort of laugh a little bit. No, he's a really good coach. He's highly respected here. I think football-wise, fantastic. Really, really impressive. I think there are some deficiencies in his approach to football. I mean, if he didn't have deficiencies, he'd be managing Barcelona. He's got flaws. They were pretty exposed on Monday, those flaws. But I think we're over it. We've moved on now. We wish him well at QPR. Very respectful. I've just moved on. I'm much happier with Thomas Frank.
There's a sort of hit and miss feeling about Mark Warburton in terms of the way he played football and sometimes the way he went around about his business. It's almost as if he's sort of gone into the annals as a very good Brentford manager when he was here, but now that he's gone, we're not entirely we're not pining for his return, put it that way.
Yeah, you're not pining for his return. You mentioned his deficiencies there. Well, he always says if plan A doesn't work, try plan A harder. I know that's a famous thing that's always etched when everyone is always talking about him, but you're very happy with Thomas Frank, and as you should be, because after this game it was 3 successive wins on the bounce, and it was a real momentum starting to turn into for Brentford, especially in this season. Obviously, before we get to that game with Huddersfield on the weekend, but before the massive London derby game, what was the general feeling heading into it? Because I know the week before when we did speak, Dave, he was a little bit nervous. He was a little bit nervous going into that Swansea game. It didn't turn out to be the case because Brentford absolutely annihilated Swansea, going great guns in the Championship 3-0. But going into this game, Robin, obviously we know the result now, but take that away. Were you feeling confident of another result? Because QPR were at home.
As I said earlier, I'm always nervous going to Loftus Road. I was feeling quietly confident, nervous with excitement, I think is the best way of putting it. I was at a couple of the pubs in and around in and around Shepherd's Bush. Really, really hospitable, really, really fantastic talking to QPR fans and Brentford fans alike. But I was feeling, I thought we were going to at least draw. I was convinced we weren't going to lose. I thought we were solid enough. Our away performances recently have been good enough to warrant feeling confident that we weren't going to lose. It's just whether or not we could turn up to the occasion and annihilate our local rivals as we did, and that's certainly what happened.
Yeah, you mentioned annihilate, and Dave, I want to ask you, it is a strange one because almost QPR playing into Brentford's hands, which when there is Warburton and he knows how Brentford play, and obviously there is that history, was that a little bit surprising at all?
Well, if you know Warburton, probably not. So Warburton doesn't think too much about the opposition. That's one of his key traits. I think he thinks about his own side and what he's going to do to affect the game. Dominate the ball, push forward, quite a high line and leave a lot of space in behind. So there were. I knew he'd do that. It's whether we were good enough to keep them out, and we actually were. But yeah, just going back to that little batch of games, we had a tricky batch. We had Millwall at home, We had QPR, we had Swansea, and we were thinking it's real make or break time, because they're three sides that we are clearly better than. And if we didn't pick up, the points we did pick up, those three were absolutely fantastic. We picked 9 points from that, which is an incredible return on those with 2 away fixtures. So really good run, and it's kind of just sort of fallen away on Saturday, but.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I think I completely agree with you. If someone had said to you before the Millwall Swansea QPR treble fixture, you'll take 9 points, you'd have gone, no, you're laughing. Yeah. You're having an absolute laugh if you think we're going to be getting the full whack from that. But historically with Warburton teams, he's worked with quite tight knit squads. He likes small squads that you can work closely with the players to develop them. And he plays a certain style, as Dave mentioned earlier. Leaves it quite open at the back, expansive football, high pressure, high domination, and we took advantage of it. It was almost as though Brentford were playing a false Brentford side, if that makes sense.
It was like an incarnation of our previous selves. It was like looking at us maybe 3 or 4 years ago and looking at all the areas you sort of fall into in a football match and what you don't want to do, and they ended up conceding 3 goals.
It's like looking at your ex and thinking, blimey, I've moved on well, haven't I?
Well, I don't know if I've ever thought that, Robin. Yeah, I've definitely not moved on. But I thought I played a small part in that, because the week that I started the Brentford fan show was the week of the Millwall. Since then, they played 3-1-3, and I thought, I'm the omen. It's going well for the Bees. I thought they'll like me. Obviously, the Huddersfield happened result on the weekend. We won't talk too much about it, because obviously now I've ruined it all. But, Dave, I want to bring it back, because just a genuine opinion. You said we look at those 3 games, we look at the sides, we're better than them. I know Swansea are going very well this year, and obviously they only recently, the last few seasons, came down from the Premier League. You genuinely believe the side that Brentford have at the minute, they are better than Swansea?
Yeah, absolutely. We're better than those teams. My nickname's XG. I'm going to talk about underlying performance a little bit here. We're far stronger than those teams, better in terms of offensive night shots, the quality of shots we have, what we concede. We're just a stronger team than all of those 3. So what you're looking for is a tough patch. If you lose those games that you're teams that you're stronger than, when you go up against the Leeds, the West Broms, or teams that are better than you, and you're losing those, you're in a bit of trouble. So you need to try and make sure you're outscoring and beating these weaker sides, and we did that away from home, and we showed what we're about. Just got to try and find a way to do it at home, but we'll get onto that later.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I am fascinated by XG and stats. Truly, I am. It'd be wonderful to talk to you a little bit more. But if we take all of that out, do you always base it on that, or
no?
Because on paper, Swansea fans and maybe other Championship fans, Swansea and Brentford aside, would argue that Swansea have the stronger side on paper. Do you? Is it purely based on stats and XG for you?
No, not purely. I think you've got to look at squad depth. You've got to look at where players have been, their experience, their ceilings, like how good their potential is, pace and vital areas. Is the coach playing the players in the right positions? Is he doing something to weaken them? There's so many different things to look at. I think it's just a good barometer to sort of look at teams over a period of time. And the season so far, we are stronger than both those teams in underlying performance.
I think it was Rasmus once used the word. It's an indicator of your performance and how well you're doing. And I think that's what I use it as. I'm not as wedded to XG as Dave is. I like it. I think it's good to spot.
Don't fall out.
No, that's right. We won't have our tiff just yet. But it was
giving him evils here. You can't see this.
That's why I said I love it, but I actually do, Dave. I'm trying to win you over.
Fantastic, you see. But
no, it's not everything at all. We know it's not everything.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's an indicator. It's a barometer of how well your team is performing in the long term, which I like. I think it's always good to have that proactive thinking, that long term thought process, and the stats, the underlying stats, as Dave just mentioned, show that we're performing really well.
Well, another yardage marker, measuring stick of that was those 3 games. We know in the Championship you can win 3-4 on the bounce, then lose 3-4 on the bounce very quickly. In what is proving, the Championship is always an open league, but this year it feels more so. I don't know if the quality's got stronger or weaker, but did the expectations change at all after those 3 games? Because I know it was sort of an indifferent start, maybe a stuttering start. After those 3 games, you've scored 8 goals, I believe. Sorry, 3-3. 8 goals. I can do quick maths.
But no, it's 9. You're right.
You were first time.
Oh, gosh, it was 9. Excuse me. We'll have to try it.
Maybe stay away from the XG, I think.
Yeah. So I was trying to win Dave over too much. But when you look at it, 3 games, 9 goals, 9 points, and you're going, oh, maybe, just maybe. Did it change at all 3 games, or no, let's not get carried away here?
I think it did change a little bit. We got really, really excited. I think you've got to look at how teams play sort of away from home and at home. There's a different mindset. It's a different way to set up, and you come up against different opposition. But across those 3 games, I think if you looked at the goals individually, a lot of them would be the goals themselves are sort of low probability efforts, like from quite far out from range, like screamers from range. Really, sort of, Josh Silva saved us a couple of times. They were quite goal. We weren't creating the chances that are sort of that you want to rely on throughout the season. We were scoring goals that were quite difficult to maintain, and I think that's kind of where we came unstuck on the weekend. We needed someone to ping one from 30 yards, or we weren't scoring it. It felt like that sort of match.
Yeah, we needed a Pontus Jansson header from 30 yards out. It's that kind of unheard of goal that that just only happens once every year kind of thing. But and obviously that didn't happen. But just going back to the QPR game, whilst the performance was absolutely outstanding, the limbs in the crowd were absolutely sensational.
Nice use there, limbs.
But it genuinely was. There were, I was using limbs that I didn't know I had. It was absolutely fantastic. Particularly
Easy, it's only 8:10.
Watershed. But yeah, particularly when Watkins' final goal went in. But I just want to talk about De Silva and Benrahma, because if I don't know if you've seen it, it's gone sort of semi-viral on the old Twitter. Is Josh De Silva's piece of skill. Some people arguing whether or not he meant it, but you've got to check it out, because I think I had to watch it about 17 times before I started to comprehend exactly what he did and how he did it. He basically took about 4 players out of the game with one flick, and then Benrahma just ended Tony Lyson's career with a nutmeg. And that's what I think made this game against QPR the win against QPR so good, is that we didn't just win in style. We won humiliating them almost. It was a real sort of rubbing salt in the wounds and bring on the return fixture at Griffin Park.
Well, for you, where does this rank up there with all the Brentford and QPR derbies?
So it's whenever you beat QPR, you have a fond memory of it, and as I'm sure is the reverse when QPR beat us. I know they'll say they don't care about us as much. But
obviously I spoke to the QPR fans. I know we can't mention it. I got to speak to them the day after, because obviously you didn't get to do your show.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they wasn't pleased.
Yeah,
Gareth was on the podcast with us.
He was. He mentioned it.
That's right. Yeah.
Actually, he spoke highly of you guys, but he wasn't a fan of the result, which is fair. We can accept.
I'd put it up there just about with Jurichin's winner 4 or 5 years ago now. That was quite special as well. What about you, Dave?
Oh, that 2-0 a couple of years ago was just that was awesome. I think the goal, Josh Clark's goal later on, Sawyers is. That was just awesome. Sawyers let that ball run across his body and sort of fired.
Wasn't that his first goal for the club or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was. But the Josh Clark goal, I think you just watch that again. Josh McEachran plays quite an important role in that, and he's someone that we couldn't stand over a period of time. But
who'd have thought
his play in the build-up on the edge of the box, I don't think I remember seeing him move like that ever again. It was just awesome to see. Sort of 1-2 and playing in Josh Clark. It was just brilliant. That will always live long. That game was fantastic.
But the Benrahma penalty and the Watkins double, that's a game, particularly as it's our last season at Griffin Park. I think that holds extra significance as well.
It was those individual performances that sort of dragged us through to being so high for Huddersfield. We were just on such a lift, weren't we? It was really good.
I just wanted to quickly ask you, because I asked Dave, Robin, did it change for you at all after those 3 wins? How your expectations, your aims, did it change for you after those 3 wins?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's impossible not to get a little bit carried away when you've just beaten your local rivals on a Monday night for your 3rd win in a row. It's always going to have that kind of positive effect moving forward. And I'm going to talk about fan expectation later on, because I think that played a big part in our result against Huddersfield. But like I said, we'll get onto that later. Yeah,
we will get onto that, because we're going to be talking about that Huddersfield game on the weekend. What was a disappointing 1-0, and I'm delighted to say, believe it or not, next we will be talking about Robin Hood's Merry Little Roundup, and it does feature Little Dave.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice. The Novotel London Blackfriars, the official hotel partner of Love Sport. Located just minutes away from the city and London's famous South Bank. You can kick back and taste the flavours of the world at the Jamboree Bar and Grill and enjoy all the sights of London in style. The Novotel London Blackfriars.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet.
leak.
Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in.
No.
Hi, I'm Dean. I work for a successful shipping company in Suffolk. Ever since I heard about people's success with the spokesmansaid.com, I knew I had to investigate for myself. Every time I need to compare car insurance, home insurance and energy bills, I always contact a spokesmansaid.com. This year alone, I saved over £260 on my car insurance and also £585 on my energy bills. I saved big through a spokesmansaid.com, and you could too.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids, so make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child's up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
This is Love Sport.
You're listening to the Brentford Fan Show with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio with the BeeSotted podcast right here on Love Sport Radio. Robin Hood McMichael and Dave XG Anderson. Well, you may have seen the Christmas adverts on the TV. The songs have started to play, and that is perfect timing because now we're going to do Robin Hood's Merry Little Roundup featuring Little Dave. Isn't that right, Robin?
It is indeed, yeah. We've got a sort of little snippet of things that are happening in and around the world of Brentford Football Club. So just start off with, as we always like talking about here, we've got a couple of new international call-ups in the past week. It's now a stage where Brentford players are getting called up to first-team international duty. It's absolutely amazing. So Camo Makocho's been called up to the South Africa squad for the upcoming games, and which is always an interesting one because Camo went away to the African Cup of Nations over the start of, the African Nations League during the summer, and came back to us, and in a similar position to Dalsgaard last season. He's looked a little bit tired. He's not really been able to complete 90 minutes consistently, so we're not sure what sort of the benefit of him going away does. Hopefully, which this again hopefully just gets like a 2-minute cameo at the end of a game somewhere, because we sort of really need him firing.
A 2-minute camo.
Very good.
Dave. You're getting a new nickname at this rate.
Witty Dave.
Hello.
And yeah,
lend it to me, please.
I think so. That'll be interesting to see, especially because our change in formation and him coming back into the side has been a sort of a part of the upturn in our performances and our results. And then Denmark have called up Henrik Dalsgaard and Christian Norgard, which are both very interesting for different reasons. So if Henrik Dalsgaard does make an appearance and does play for Denmark this upcoming international window, he will be the highest, most capped player whilst playing for Brentford. So he'll reach 20. So it was John Buttigieg at 20 caps. So if Henrik's currently equalled him on 20 caps. So if he gets another one, he will reach 21 caps for Denmark whilst playing for Brentford, and hence go down for now anyway in the Brentford Annals. So best of luck to him. I think he will get, because he's pretty much their starting right back. And then Christian Norgard, who has been capped, I believe, at Denmark under 21 level, but has been called up to the squad for the upcoming qualifiers as well as Henrik. So that's an interesting one, because Norgard is one of the players who came to us. He'd had an injury hit season last season. And he's come to us, and he started the season playing, shall we say, out of position. He wasn't really he wasn't putting in consistent performances. Looked a little bit off the pace, a little bit lacking in physicality. And I mentioned sort of Camo's coming back into the side, as I think as that sort of box-to-box midfield general, as we call him. That's really helped free up Norgard a little bit to do his more natural role, which is sitting in front of the back before putting a tackle and distributing. And he's looked a hell of a lot better the past few games. So really, best of luck to all three of those guys. We always hope they do well.
Here for that. Yeah, just on Norgard, it's just awesome, the sort of company he's keeping. So Christian Eriksen, Philip Billing, like Thomas Delaney at Dortmund. There's some pretty cool company he's keeping there to get into that squad. So really impressive.
Kasper Schmeichel in goal as well. These are class players.
Yeah.
And for him to be rubbing shoulders with them is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's just rewarding his performances. But yeah, awesome. Really great to see.
It's fantastic to see. And then we move on to a different player. So this is moving away from international call-ups. Said Ben Rama has been nominated for the PFA Fans Player of the Month for October, which I think it doesn't come as any surprise to me. Not necessarily just because of the fact he's got 2 goals and 2 assists across the 4 games that he's played in October. He's that sort of mercurial flash player whose sort of tricks and flicks will end up on YouTube and end up on as part of a compilation and a highlight reel online. He's got that sort of imaginative, engaging personality as well. He tries things. He doesn't do anything in half measures. He wants to do things really, really well. So yeah, he's been nominated for the PFA Fans Player of the Month, and you can vote for him by going online and voting. So yeah, get your votes in, because I think he deserves it. He's been fantastic in October.
Yeah, vote Said.
Vote Said.
No more needs to be said on that. No. Yeah, get voting.
No more needs to be Said on that.
Hey, leave
1-1 in
I'm going to be out of a job. You two carry on like this.
Yeah, we'll stop it. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so cheers for the international stuff, Robert. But yeah, I'll pick
Little
up
Dave.
Yeah, on to me. Yeah, so I'm going to look at a couple
You
of...
need a jingle for this,
Yeah,
little
probably.
Dave. I'm going to work on it.
We'll work on it. Yeah.
Maybe like a little bell or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm going to look at a couple of players out on loan or sort of out and about. Players that, we like to keep an eye on, and we sort of, could they do anything for our squad now and whether we need them? So start off with Emiliano Marcondes, out on loan at Midtjylland. He is an attacking midfielder, likes to operate centrally. We've played him a bit out wide. I think he could be doing... I think we could do with him. I think if you looked on Saturday, we could have done with someone running late into the box. But he's playing really well for Midtjylland. Good standard out there. He's got a goal so far. He's got a couple of assists, got assists on the weekend. And Midtjylland are steaming that league. They're 4 points clear of Copenhagen at the top of the league. Doing
It's
really, really well.
nice to see him playing 90 minutes as well.
Yeah,
It's always a big thing for Marcondes, and it's nice to see him doing that.
Yeah, I don't think he just never really got the rub of the green here. But it's really funny. Like with this formation change, I really think we could be... He could be an asset for our team, and I think he is kind of what we're looking for. Something different from midfield a little bit later, give a little bit of support to the strikers. So he's doing really well out there in Denmark at the moment. Halil Dervisoglu, he is a 19-year-old superstar Turkish player. He's going to be joining us in January. Really exciting player, sort of like quite powerful. Really, it doesn't look 19. Yeah, really strong, good dribbling attributes. Just always wants to take people on and can score a few goals. He's on a little bit of goal drought at the moment, and Sparta Rotterdam aren't doing too well. They're down in 11th at the moment, and he's been sort of stuck on 4 goals and 3 assists for a while. But he's getting shots away, doing quite well. Exciting when he comes. Yeah, how he's going to fit into the team is going to be really, really, really interesting. We could do sort of a little lift in Jan. I think if we can get through to Jan safe, and then he comes in, could be a really good asset to the end of the season. And also, Ellery Balcom, so he's quite interesting. He's had quite an eventful week. He's 20-year-old keeper, involved in the under-21 last England squad, which is really exciting for him. Really exciting for us as well. Good stuff for Ellery. They're doing really well. So he's in the second tier of Danish football for Viborg, or Viborg, sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, Danes. Doing quite well, sort of nothing spectacular saves-wise. Like his expected goals, he's sort of in line with what he should be sort of saving. Sort of 6.5 XG, saves 7, conceded 7 goals, so he's okay there. But he actually got a red card on the weekend when they were 1-0 up. And Robin and I have watched this back, and we are not impressed with the refereeing here.
Yeah, they needed VAR.
Definitely. It was awful. It was so soft. I think I've had more contact with you, Charlie, since I've been here. It was just very, very soft. Player's gone past him. He sort of touched him, brushed him. I think they thought last man, and it was just really soft, and he got sent off, and he gets sent off, and they end up losing 2-1. So not the best week for Ellery Balcom. But interesting fact on Ellery Balcom. So we look at Brentford keepers. What we're trying to keep an eye on is distribution. It's really important, and they're really good with their feet. We basically want our goalkeepers to be able to play defensive midfield. That's how good they are. We want them to be able to keep short passes up, and he's actually looking really good. So he's made 88 short passes, and he's completed 88 passes. He's got 100% pass completion in short passes, so sort of like 5 to 10 yard passes square.
Sounds like a Brentford keeper, basically.
Brentford keeper in the making.
You want to be careful.
Absolutely.
It sounds like Pep Guardiola will snap him up. This is the way they want keepers to play now.
Exactly.
This is the modern way of this full 11-man playing football, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can't get into the Brentford team unless you've got this attribute. So he's showing that he's sort of developing that area, and he's delivering it in sort of men's football as well. So it's fantastic to see.
Well, what a merry roundup that was. That was absolutely fantastic. Featuring little Dave. I absolutely loved it. I just wanted to quickly ask, before we look at that Huddersfield game, Robin, you mentioned it, how proud you are to see Brentford players who are getting international call-ups. What does that mean for the fans when you are seeing them play for their, their national side and, the most capped player? How much is it? Not a pinch yourself moment. You're like, they're playing for Brentford, they're playing for their country, they're representing our club. It's just huge, isn't it?
Well, I think it's just a marker of how far we've developed as a football club. If you look at sort of back in the day when we were playing on puddings of pitches, and we were getting crowds of 4,000. As the club has developed and evolved over the past 6, 7, 8 years, that's been I think that's indicative in the way in which we're getting more international call-ups, most of which are at under 21 and under 19 level. Don't get me wrong, but it's the full first team squad call-ups where they're, as Dave said, they're rubbing players with premierships, they're rubbing shoulders with Premiership players and big established internationals. So yeah, it's really, really gratifying. It's really, really prideful. I'm over the moon every time I see someone get a call-up. It's a genuine feeling of pride in your club.
Yeah, you mentioned them rubbing shoulders. It can only then go and help and enhance their ability, and then they bring that back to Brentford on the weekend. Let's talk about what did happen on the weekend. That was at Huddersfield. Obviously, 3 games, 3 wins, then Huddersfield. The last time you played them, it was the same result, 1-0 for the Terriers. They're on an incredible run. They're calling it Danny Cowley's Conquerors at the minute. It was a 6-game unbeaten streak. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? I'm sorry that I have to announce that to you.
No, but I think it's fair. It's a fair assumption, actually.
Yeah, and now it's obviously 7 games unbeaten. And it's interesting, Dave, you mentioned players that you maybe could do with who are not at Brentford at the minute. It's interesting that on the weekend I just felt like they lacked a little bit of creative punch when you have scored 9 goals and it's been those 3 weekends. They could have done with it this weekend, couldn't they?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we've got one playing now, Sawyers, sold into West Brom, and I think we could have done with him on Saturday. It was those sort of cute little passes on the edge of the box, and I think this is why people got annoyed with Benrahma, very much trying to make play happen. He kind of felt like it was all on him to do something different and actually break just that rigid defensive line from Huddersfield, and we could have done with something a bit more, but we tried. We sort of huffed and puffed a little bit. It was just one of those days. Robert and I bumped into each other before the ground, and we spoke about the rugby. It was a kick sport out of sport day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We normally say kick football out of football. But
it was a really, really strange sort of comparison between Brentford football and England rugby. Is that the previous week we'd had an amazing performance against a class team. Like the way England beat New Zealand was similar to the way in which we beat QPR, and then it all just sort of came crashing down in terms of we just couldn't break down a very solid defence in the same way that the England national team couldn't break down the South African defence. It was really sort of that. At the end of the day, I think it was a fair result, but we'll get onto that later.
Yeah, maybe Brentford were just riding too high from that QPR victory. We're going to talk more about that game. First, though, let's hear what the fans had to say after the game.
First half, I thought was pretty even. No real chances on goal from anyone. Second half, we looked quite bright first 15 minutes. We had a few chances. They got their goal, shut up shop. It was just really frustrating after that. Lots of niggly fouls, loads and loads of time wasted. The kind of game that becomes so frustrating when you're a Bees fan. But we didn't show enough in the end. We just didn't show enough. And their 1-0 win wasn't deserved, I think, but maybe a draw.
Huddersfield looked fairly solid, fairly useful, took their one chance. Not many chances created again, really. I think even with possession, I don't think we really worried them. Lots of balls into the box, which is unlike us. We didn't really get on the end of any of those. And still that worry about how we're going to really create chances when we need to turn a game around. But no one had a bad game particularly. It was just frustrating.
Credit to Huddersfield. I thought Brentford were very good in the first half. Huddersfield grew into the second half. And unfortunately, we saw a nice strong finish from Brentford. It just wasn't enough today, unfortunately.
It was always going to be a one-goal match, and if you had Huddersfield got a goal in front, they were going to sit back and never concede anything else. Slightly disappointed with our performance today. Did we leave everything on the pitch last Monday? Possibly. But Huddersfield, very professional. I use that word advisedly. I mean, time wasting, tactical fouls, the northern clogging, battling, all the stereotypes that you'd like to take. Sometimes you need to be a bit more direct.
I think we are ticking very well. I think they've done a transformational role, right? They've got together a band of misfits, people who didn't want to be in the team, galvanised the team, got the team spirit back and the team identity. So, yeah, I'm buzzing. We were like a stone dropping, right? But now we're galvanised, so we've got to look at consolidating that. But I must say as well, what a warm welcome today at Brentford. I mean, it's fantastic every time I come to the ground. But I did back us at 100 to 1 to be promoted this week, so I'm forever the Huddersfield Town optimist, right?
I think Carlin Grant, Bakuna, we've got proper scorers on our side, and we've got legends from the old guard like Schindler and Hogg, and it's just their family, and it's just so uplifting. And I'm proud to be a Town.
A week ago, we struggled really to turn up today. One of the things I've been thinking about is whether we're better as a counter-attacking team, because I just wonder whether we have the creative wherewithal and the tempo of passing to open teams up like we used to. I think I know what the answer is. We look better when teams are pressing against us, and they come onto us, and we can open them up. But when we have to make the game and press on them and make the passes and open them up, I think we struggle.
Fair play to the Cowleys brothers. I saw a lot of them a few years ago, as I said on the podcast this week, and I saw something completely different today. They had a team that, battled very, very hard. They knew what they were doing. Examples, Wemo, they were not going to let him have a shot on his left foot. They just weren't going to have it, and he didn't get any opportunity really to come inside, I thought. They took Watkins out of the game. I guess they marked him out of the game. There were no balls, very little played into Watkins, and when he did have the goal in front of him, we weren't able to get the ball across to him. So well done, well done to them on that. Yeah, it wasn't great today, and fair play at Huddersfield. I thought they were very, very impressive.
Love Sport. Are you paying way too much for your energy bills? A Spokesman Said is a price comparison site that shows you the very best energy deals on the market. Don't pay the price for rising energy costs.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
You're listening to the Brentford Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with the BeeSotted podcast, Robin Hood, McMichael and Dave XG Anderson. We were just hearing from the fans then after that game with Huddersfield. We're still talking about that game because it was obviously a disappointing 1-0 scoreline, especially after those 3 games, those 3 victories, all those goals. Well, it just petered out slightly on the weekend, Robin. What was the cause of that?
I think we were outmanoeuvred by a very well-organised, well-drilled and in-form opposition. I think Liberal Nick made the point on the fan audio that you just heard now that we sort of may have left everything on the pitch last week at QPR because of the sort of the amazing result that was. I don't think that would don't necessarily agree with that, but what I do agree was that Huddersfield was incredibly professional. It was always going to be a 1-goal game. Huddersfield got that 1 goal on a breakaway and sat deep, and we could have probably spent another 90 minutes playing football. We wouldn't have got a goal against them, I don't think. So I think that's what it was. I don't think it was necessarily us being that bad. I think someone on the podcast, I can't remember who said it, so I'm going to take credit for it, said that nobody really had a bad game, which I think is if you look at all of our players, I don't think there was anyone below a 5 or a 6, but there was no one above a 7 or an 8 either.
Yeah, I don't blame you for taking credit. If you wouldn't have, I would have, and I wasn't at the other podcast. Robin mentions there that Huddersfield very good defensively, Dave. It wasn't necessarily Brentford, it was Huddersfield just being better on the day in them departments. Would you have to agree with that?
Yeah, I think you do. You have to look at the opposition, and you do have to give credit to the opposition sometimes. Like the Cowleys have come into Huddersfield, and they've pretty much transformed that team. You can see that they're so much more organised, really, really disciplined, hard to break down. We had one shot in the box, and it was a Janvier header. And other than that, I mean, we didn't really create much. It was really weak in terms of that. Watkins didn't have a shot all match. It was unusual for us. And when things like that happen, you can't just say it's us that's an issue. It's actually the opposition really, really sort of performing well. They made the game bitty. They really got into us.
Scrappy.
It was scrappy. It was Yappy Terriers. That's one of the things.
Scrappy Yappy Terriers.
Yappy Terriers.
Hey, we can work on this together, Dave.
Yeah, I think Alad also said it on the fan audio that you just heard that they sussed Watkins and Buemo. Yeah. Watkins didn't have a shot all game. That's very, very indicative. He usually has it. Usually has a couple of chances. And Buemo is our Brian from Twat, as we call him. He's got this wonderful ability to cut him onto his left foot in a similar way that Jota used to be able to do. But they sussed that completely, and Dave made the point in the pre-match production meeting earlier. Office, yeah. That there wasn't that Dalsgaard wasn't making his usual overlapping runs, and we didn't have that advancing midfielder to support Puemo on that side. So they sussed the way we were playing. They sussed it very, very well.
Yeah, I think that Cowley deserves credit for that, Dave. You mentioned it because he's very good tactically, I believe, and that's what Huddersfield saw, what the Cowleys were doing at Lincoln. Obviously, it just feels like last season Brentford, very strong at home, not so much on the road. Slight turnaround this season. What are we thinking? Yeah, I was being generous. I wanted you two to fill in the gaps, but it has turned around, hasn't it, Dave? Robin.
It's a different sort of. It's almost the opposite of last season. Last season, I think. In both away and home games, we were very, very mercurial in terms of from an attacking sense, but not very, very good in defense as a defensive unit. But we managed to get results at home because we had that sort of. Griffin Park was a bit of a fortress last season, whereas away from home we crumbled. This season we do seem to lead. I don't know what the best way of putting it for it. It's almost, I think, as though fan expectations. We mentioned it earlier on. Last season, we were always sort of expected at home against Griffin Park, no matter who the opposition was, top of the table, bottom of the table, we were going to score 4 or 5 goals and we were going to outscore the opposition. Away from home, we sort of accepted we weren't very good on the road and that we weren't going to be able to get a result. That's almost flipped this season, and I think it's down to the more substantial transfer fees we've spent in the transfer window. That naturally adds to players' expectations. Should we call it the big name signing of Pontus Jansson? That builds more expectation, and all of this builds more expectation. And then when we go on a good run away from home and win games like Barnsley, like Swansea, we have more of that expectation away from home. So I think fan expectation played a big part in the result on Saturday. We almost expected, after a good run of results, good run of games, players in form, that we were going to do really, really well. And what happened was we went up against a side that sat 10 men behind the ball for 70% of the match and completely outmaneuvered us, as I said earlier.
Well, what happens when you do get wins? We know wins breed confidence, but when you're winning, you forget about everything else. And did that maybe slightly mask the problems in the side, or the creative problems in the side, Dave, a little bit?
Yeah, I think it probably did. I think the atmosphere on Saturday was awesome. It was Ealing Road was pumping. You could
and just quickly, it was the last ever remembrance fixture, wasn't it, at Griffin Park? Which obviously the move next year. So
yeah. Good stuff for that. Yeah, it was really nice. But yeah, the atmosphere was really buzzing. I think everyone was really on it, and just riding that wave from QPR. But just going back to the away and home stuff, I think there is a clear change in this side. So in the summer, they've clearly sat down and they've said, what's our biggest problem? Well, away from home. If we can just shore ourselves up away from home and actually make us stronger defensively and pick up, say, 15 more points on the road or something like that, we've got a really good chance in this league. The problem we've got now is actually we've probably built this side to be more counter-attacking, and actually when someone is sitting deep, it's not of the calibre of last year, and it's not. Thomas Frank says this in his interviews. He talks about sort of having better solutions to solving problems, and what he means by that, what he actually means is should Watkins stay up there on his own, or should Watkins drop back, how Morpah used to do, and sort of get involved in build-up more? Should Benrahma make a different sort of run, or are they a little bit predictable, and are we sort of falling into the traps that sort of teams like Huddersfield are laying up for us? Because they schooled us on Saturday. I think they really did. They let us come onto them, really pressed us in the right areas, let us just sort of rush things. I think it was. It got very, very frustrating. And then a couple of chances. They actually got more shots in the box than us, and they scored a really good goal on the break. And you can't really deny that it was a good performance on their side.
They came with a game plan and they stuck to it, they stuck to it well.
Yeah, is that a cause of concern going forward? Then obviously it's Wigan on the weekend. Dave, you seem a little bit more concerned when you were saying that.
Yeah, I think at home, I don't think anything's changed. I think we've had this problem all season. It hasn't gone away just because of a couple of really good away performances where we've scored sort of great goals. The problem's still there. We need to find a way to be better at home, and we need to find a way to. Teams who are clever and good, not every team's going to be like Derby County, one of the worst tactical displays I think I've seen for a while. They just sort of came and were so open. Everyone who does their homework, and this is how you can sort of separate the good managers from the bad ones. They understand our strengths, and Koku's looks quite weak, but the Cowleys aren't bad coaches. Nathan Jones isn't, and they're the ones that come and they organise their team, which is really hard to do for a long period of game and just see what they can get, and they end up getting more chances than us. So we need. There is something missing that's happening now. And some people have raised the point that maybe we're not attacking enough from the beginning phases of the game. Whether we're a bit too conservative, like sort of a 3-man midfield of Josh Da Silva, Norgard, and Mokotjo. Maybe that's a little bit too defensive at home. Maybe we sort of need to swap maybe a Mokotjo, Ben Rama sort of into the middle and play someone else out wide, or something else a little bit more. Who's going to make the full runs? And this is the point I was making earlier about Marcondes. I think he'd be really good in this formation now, and it's frustrating for him probably because he's probably looking at this and thinking the way I want to play, and it wasn't ever there because we played the sort of the 3-4-3, and now you've got the position number 10 position for me. I'm nowhere near the club, so. Yeah, I am a little bit frustrated, but I think we're going to we're going to probably play the perfect away performance, soak up Wigan's play, and probably hit them for 3.
Well, we know what the fans think, Robin and Dave, and what you think at home, and everyone else with the BeeSotted podcast. Let's hear what the manager had to say, Thomas Frank, on the weekend.
I think it was a tough test for us today, and after 3 really good performances, I think we put a okay average performance out there, and when we play against the informed team as Huddersfield, we need to be bang up there, especially on the final third, and we were not that today. First half, Huddersfield managed to slow us down and defend very well. We only had short moments where we actually created or could create opportunities. But no problem. Okay, we know we will create something in the second half. Second half, I actually thought that we started to get a bit of momentum, and we, now it's close for us to break through. And then their goal changed it on their chance in second half. Changed that momentum, and after that we didn't do well enough to keep the ball up there, move it well, side to side, produce a cross or another chance. We didn't do that well enough. It was not on a normal high level. So what we need to learn from this game is to still move the ball better, still try to get behind them and still producing those crosses and pick the ball up and really lock them in. And that's the big thing we need to learn from this game and take forward into the next game. It is so even, so competitive. There's no easy games. Look at some of the results today as well. It's so difficult just to be on top of that and get that momentum. So what we need to look at is our performances, and in general they've been good. Again, I saw a lot of effort, I saw a lot of will out there, and that's the most important thing. But we lack the quality today and the decision making, and that's the bit we need to work so hard on. Of course, it's difficult. No excuses. That's the way it is. We need to find better solution. We need to be even better to opening up opponents and find that way in to create more chances. Because we also know there were opportunities today. Do we take the first one? It's a different game. Today was Huddersfield who defended well and did that well. So we have a game next week at Wigan. I think we are in a really good place in many aspects after a very top week last week with 9 points in 3 games. Of course, we are hugely disappointed that we didn't get the 3 points today. And mostly, I must say that we dropped a little bit in performance. We've been so good, especially the front 3. But that's the way it is. There's only one way. It's up again and start and train hard next week, and then we go again.
Train hard next week. The only way is up again. Obviously, after those 3 victories, obviously Thomas Frank come out there. What did you make of that, Robin?
I thought with Thomas Frank interviews, I'm either really enthused by what he says, and again, it all depends on the result because he's either really enthusiastic or not. The general message I gleaned from the interview that he gave there was sort of, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, but we've just got to do it better. So whether or not that means there's no plan B or plan B is reinforcing plan A, or if there are sort of certain tweaks, but there doesn't seem to be this sort of, I've got an idea of how I'm going to change this, of how I'm going to turn this game around. So when we're in a losing position and the opposition have 10 men parked behind the ball and we can't break them down, this plan seems to be just keep trying. Occasionally it does work. It's happened against Millwall when we didn't really change our strategy too much. We kept plugging away, got 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. But as we said after that match, that's a once in a season, sometimes once in 2 seasons occurrence. So I'm not entirely sure if that's the best way to go about it. I think we've certainly got the personnel to do it, but it's whether or not we have that ability to change up our game plan slightly in order to create more chances.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. It's slightly, at some points, not. It's really difficult listening to Thomas. I think he's honest. I think he says what he feels, and he's honest, and you can kind of hear the little flatness in his voice because he might be a little bit disappointed in the players. I think he said it in that interview, they sort of ran out of patience a little bit, and I think we fell into a lot of Huddersfield traps. he says a lot of the time as well, we need better solutions to problems, and that's what he is. He's a problem solver. That's how he approaches sort of tactical issues. The best way to do it, you look at what's in front of you and you're trying to adapt. But the guys frustratingly kind of did what they wanted. So Mbeumo kept coming on his left. Maybe he sort of should have gone outside a couple of times on his right and gone on the other side, funneled into the places where they were occupying the space. Should he have done something different? Should he have maybe swapped wings a bit more with Benrahma and gone on the left and gone on the outside more? I don't know. There were a few things that were quite frustrating, and I think it did boil over in the players a little bit. The couple of Benrahma flicks where he was just so desperate to try something different. And it was just one of those games where you felt like if there wasn't a screamer, where were we going to score then? It was they were just really, really impressive at the back.
I was waiting for that Hail Mary goal, wasn't it? Just sort of fire it from 70 yards out off someone's earlobe and see what happens.
I know you can never look at football like that, but maybe before, if we would have said 9 points from 12, 3 wins out of 4, you would have taken it.
Lovely.
But obviously the last game is always the one that's fresh in your mind. It's the one that's raw and the one you talk about the most.
You're only as good as your last performance.
Well, this is very true. I was trying to do it better than that, but I'm on a yellow, so I'm not going to question Robin as we go. But let's take a look at the next run of fixtures, because winter is coming, and we know in the Championship the games come thick and fast.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio. Follow @Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions, and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things. And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
This is Love Sport.
Are you throwing away your hard-earned money on expensive energy bills? Keep the price down when you turn the heating up. You could be saving hundreds by switching to a cheaper deal. A spokesmansaid.com compares all the best deals in the market to find you the one that saves the most cash. Find the cheapest energy tariffs for you today. Go to a spokesmansaid.com and start saving now.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Yeah, you're still listening to the Brentford Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with the BeeSotted podcast, Robin Hood, McMichael and Dave, Little Dave, XG Anderson. No, I'm joking. I've not changed that, Dave. Don't you worry, because I know we're both on the yellow.
Careful.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry.
Red
Robin's
card's
in
coming
charge.
out of the pocket again.
I know. Robin is charged. Robin is sailing this ship, just like Jon Snow. We talk about Jon Snow because winter is coming, isn't it, Robin?
Yeah, and we're unfortunately going to be without Sergi Canos and Nikos Karelis. I just thought, in the wake of yesterday's game between Everton and Tottenham, I don't know if anyone, I presume everyone's seen the news about Andre Gomez. It was an awful challenge, an awful injury. Also, it wasn't necessarily an awful challenge, but it was an awful injury, and we certainly wish him the best of luck. But it sort of harked me back to the days of when we had players like Alex Rhodes. It was a promising young player coming through our academy who got bundled into the advertising hoardings on the side, never came back from it. Alan Judge a few years ago, who was the best player in the division, arguably. scored 14 goals, I think 18 assists, absolutely on form. Got a double leg break at the away at Ipswich, has never been the same player since. I was just sort of thinking, first of all, I wanted to pose the question to you, Dave. Do you think that Sergi Canos has got a knee injury? Nikos Kourelis has also got a knee injury, but on a separate knee to the one that he did last season. Do you think they're going to be able to come back fitter and stronger than before?
Yeah, I absolutely hope so. I really do hope so. I think these injuries we're so far ahead of sports science now that they're on top of everything. They'll have the best care they can possibly get, and they'll be given the best chance, let's say. I mean, they can come back. Sergi's a strong boy. I mean, if anyone's going to come back, it's him. Those legs are pretty powerful. He can take anything. I just, fingers crossed, they're fine. You just never know. I mean, I think when they are fit, it's that period, sort of that couple of months after that, where they're probably most susceptible. But
exactly, because I think it's Canos and Kourelis are two players that had a serious role to play moving forward for us. Kourelis was brought in as the sort of the mini Malpe, the replacement almost, like for like, and then Sergi Canos had developed into this outstanding wide player playing in the wing back role. And arguably with the change in formation, that wouldn't have suited him as well because he'd been playing further forward. But he was in a really good run of form. So it's just really slightly disappointing that they're out for the remainder of the season. Was what it looks like. And then that sort of led us on to thinking whether or not we've got a thick enough and strong enough in-depth squad to take us through till January.
And, we probably not, actually, if you looked at us on Saturday.
Do you think so?
I think the squad's too thin for you, Dave.
I think with these injuries, I think we look quite light. Yeah. I think in the wide areas, we're still waiting for sort of Joel Valencia to develop. He looks still quite raw. I think if you looked at the weekend on the right midfield, who do we have to come in? We're bringing Zambarek on, and you're sort of pushing Benrahma in the centre, and Zambarek's not a winger. He's sort of a central mid player, and it looks light. This is probably Frank's problem as well. Like, what can he do to change it? Does he have many aces up his sleeve? And we're still developing. I think January can't come quick enough. I think we need Dervisoglu in the house. That will be a really good lift. We need to just try and sort of stay above water until then. But this squad is looking light. It might be that the formation does tweak it because we can sort of play and get our best players on the pitch.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's recall clauses on Marcondes and Force as well, but bring those two players back in, Dervisoglu coming back in as well. I think we so you might argue that we look a bit thin. I think the players that our starting 11 is very, very strong. I'm convinced of that. I think our strength in depth.
But it's if you do get those injuries, and it's the depth, isn't it? Because in a championship season, everyone's strong to a degree in your first 11. It's when you are suspensions even over Christmas. The games, the yellows are accumulated.
I think it's also it's sort of accumulated fatigue. I think we kind of saw that on the weekend a little bit. Camo's played sort of quite a few 90 minutes in a row now, and you could just about see that. Maybe we're celebrating South Africa winning a great great World Cup and had a couple in the morning. Who knows? But yeah, you can kind of see it building, and you want to be able to rotate players. Jensen doesn't seem to come in and give us much at the moment. I mean, he gives us sort of nice volume passing, but there's no drive from him. There's nothing. He kind of sort of, the game happens around him and he waits for it to happen. We need a bit more than that, and I think we are missing a couple there.
Well, just very quickly, obviously, it was 9 points from those 12 games. Next, it's Wigan away, Reading at home, Blackburn away, Luton at home. What are we expecting from those 4 games, points tally, roughly? Because we can never say with the performances.
I'll take another 9 points. I think Wigan is very winnable. Reading is going to be a bit hit and miss. I'm not entirely sure. And it's funny now we're talking about how our away games. I'm looking at thinking.
We're looking at these aways and our eyes are lighting up.
So I'd say definitely a win. I'm going to say wins against Blackburn, Wigan and Luton, and maybe a home loss to Reading through gritted teeth.
9 out of 12.
9 out of 12,
that would be 18 out of 24. That would be very, very good.
Yeah, that's probation form. I'm pretty similar. I think there's 3 wins in there. There is 3. I'm not sure which combinations, but I can see 3 wins there.
Well, strong running for Brentford. Quickly, I know you want to announce just a bit of housekeeping, don't you, Robin?
Yes, a few plugs. Make sure you tune in this Thursday, 7 a.m. will be the BeeSotted podcast, prideofwest.london. As usual, loads of T-shirts and lots of great club are available on BeeSotted.com. Make sure you review and like our podcast on iTunes, Spotify and all platforms, and like us on social media, at BeeSotted on Twitter and Facebook.
Well, unbelievably, even though me and Dave got a yellow card, we managed to get through it all. We've seen the game out. We didn't get sent off.
You made it through the 90 minutes. It's brilliant.
No suspensions. Unbelievable. Well, what a pleasure this was, the Brentford fan show. They play Wigan on the weekend. A huge game there. As always, we'll be back here on Love Sport Radio Monday, 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock to review it all. This has been the Brentford fan show with the BeeSotted podcast. Robin Hood McMichael and Dave XG Anderson. We will see you next week.
You beat.
Love Sport.
Hi, my name's Bob. I'm a retired civil servant from Durham. I used the advice that the spokesman said gave me to haggle with Sky to reduce my monthly payments from £86 per month to £43 per month, which was a saving of £774